So, everybody and everyone. The concept of artificial intelligence comes from the understanding of the relationship between the idea of everybody and that of everyone. And why is that? Because artificial intelligence uses corporations to exist. A person, according to Black's Law Dictionary, also corresponds to a corporation. And everybody uses corporate entities to attack you. Once again, corporations are described as a person. That is, a fictitious entity, and a corporation can correspond to a person. The Matrix analogy. The best way to understand this is to take as an example the movie, The Matrix. Do you remember Agent Smith? When he infiltrated the Matrix, he turned people into agents, into himself. That is what everybody corresponds to, because being part of the Matrix, these people correspond to corporations. A series of fictitious entities whose image can be changed at any time by the infiltration of a program. But there was a difference between the inhabitants of the Matrix and the sovereigns, those freed from the Matrix. Remember, Agent Smith could not transform Neo because he no longer had easy access to Neo. It was a matter of access, of accessibility. Neo no longer corresponded to everybody once he had abandoned and left the Matrix. He stood as the one, an everyone, and the concept of artificial intelligence comes from this understanding between everybody and everyone. Anderson and the game of names. Neo had to change his name to get out of the Matrix. He proclaimed himself Neo, the hacker, the one who broke the code to escape. But his corporate name corresponded to Anderson. That's why Agent Smith always called him Anderson, because Anderson represented the corporate identity, the enslaved version of Neo. And Anderson himself was just ordinary, average. And he only became extraordinary when he became Neo, the one who broke the Matrix code. Everybody as masks, and superheroes. And everybody is like Batman or Robin. You know Batman and Robin, but you don't really know who they are behind their masks. The same analogy applies to everybody. Superman was actually Clark Kent, and he was only super when he wore his cape, his costume, his mask. Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Nobody knows the true appearance of Spider-Man. That is Spider-Man behind the mask. Everybody knows Spider-Man, but nobody, or very few people, actually knows Spider-Man behind the mask. Yet Spider-Man is Peter Parker. But in the system of staring, although Peter Parker had two characters, Peter Parker himself and Spider-Man, they are accounted for differently in terms of profit and credit, even though it's the same person. This is called a glitch, because the profit Spider-Man makes is unintentionally attributed and transferred to Peter Parker, since Peter Parker himself is Spider-Man. And nobody knows it, so almost nobody can fix it to siphon his energy. Thus, the staring system is based on what a person does under a single appearance, but it doesn't take into account what a person can do under 2 or 3 characters, since the system only records the single appearance. And if at 7 in the morning you are a homeless man, then at 12 you become an agent, a junk dealer, and finally at 4 you turn into a billionaire, nobody would have time to stare at you. And this is because people would have been frozen with the image in which they had observed you or thought they observed you, all while thinking these 3 characters correspond to 3 different people, even though it is a single person playing the aspect. The role of 3 characters and personality in a unique appearance. The profit of names, and why people stay stuck. Mr. Anderson was stuck in his job, his Matrix life, miserable. His vision, His profit and his destiny were limited by his corporate access name. Neo gave himself a new vision, a new destiny. And when the agents cracked the code to discover his true identity, Mr. Anderson, Neo had already escaped. Because he was not yet fully observed, totally scanned or spied on, he still had credit under the name of Neo. And maybe that's also your problem. Maybe your life seems miserable because your birth name and the profit linked to it has already been fully scanned by everybody. If your name is dead and you don't even know it, then that name can no longer bring you opportunities for profit. That's why you feel stuck,